Bob has now Linda with him. No, not she's not right now there in the room, but she's in his house, so he's pretty happy to have his daughter there, and I'm too.
Okay. Well, I'm almost all ready. Already. And I'm going to turn my music up to the point where I don't hear my dad's nose whistle.
What?
I'm sitting here listening to your nose whistle, so I'm
My
turning the
nose
volume
is
up.
whistling?
Uh-huh.
What tune is it whistling?
Oh, it's a depressing tune.
I don't get no respect. I never get no respect, you know? Just don't get no respect.
Yeah. No respect. All right. And I think everything's ready already.
You're missing one little thing. You need to share your screen in Zoom. Thank you very much, Holly.
Oh, it's definitely more than just that one thing.
One
But thank you.
small little thing.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Good morning, Tom. Oh,
Good
maybe not can't
morning,
hear me.
Tom. Yeah, he's in Clubhouse now.
I see him now. All right. Y'all are looking good. Looking good. Well, I've got everything ready on my side. So, with no further ado, Workbook Lesson 58. A couple of things to clean up, but it's looking pretty good. Good enough for me to get started anyway. I'll take care of the rest of it when we get time. So today's workbook lesson, the little image that I have showing for it that kind of is supposed to sum up the lesson a little bit. There we go. A little better. The holiness of the world is all I see. Let's think about that just for a moment. The holiness of all the world is all I see. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Enoch. Welcome. Glad you guys are here. We're doing workbook lesson 58 today. The theme is the holiness of the world is all I see. This is a review of lessons 36 through 40. I'll read through them several times this morning, and then I'll read the notes. We'll do a little meditation. We've got time to talk. All the time in the world we need. Lesson 58, lesson summary 36 through 40. These ideas are for review today from lessons 36 through 40. 36 is my holiness envelops all that I see. Morning, Snows. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven my world of egoic perception, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me, seen through understanding eyes of my big S self, my higher self. The holiness of the world is all I see, for I can picture only the forgiving and holy thoughts that I hold about myself. Lesson 37, my holiness blesses the world. The perception of my holiness does not bless me alone. Everyone and everything I see in my holy light shares in the joy my holiness brings to me. There is nothing that is apart from this joy of my holiness, because there is nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. Lesson 38 is there's nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is unlimited in its power to heal, because it's unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from except illusions? And what are all illusions except false ideas about myself? My holiness undoes all illusions by asserting the truth about me. In the presence of my holiness, which I share with God Himself, all idols vanish. Lesson 39, my holiness is my salvation. Since my holiness saves me from all guilt, recognizing my holiness is recognizing my salvation. Recognizing my holiness is also recognizing the salvation of the world. Once I've accepted my holiness, nothing can make me afraid. And because I'm unafraid, everyone must share in my understanding, which is the gift of God to me and to the world. Lesson 40, I'm blessed as a son of God. Because I'm blessed as a son of God, herein lies my claim to all good and only good. I'm blessed as a son of God. All good things are mine, because God intended all good things for me. I cannot suffer any loss or deprivation or pain, because who I am as God's blessed son. My Father supports me, protects me, and directs me in all things. My Father's care for me is infinite and is with me forever. I am eternally blessed as my Father's son. And our notes for this, so that we keep these thoughts through our day. The notes are my holiness. It's lesson 36 title. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a child of God. Lesson 58 is once again a summary session. It covers ACIM Workbook lessons 36 through 40 that we were discussing a few weeks prior. Rather than just discuss these various lessons, I'd like to first go over some of the terminology that is used in these lesson summaries. Often common words are used that have specific meaning for ACIM purposes. This terminology needs to trigger within your mind a much broader concept than the commonly understood definition. With that in mind, the following ideas may be helpful as you try to decipher the concepts behind these lessons. Holy is actually to make whole. It's the knowing that you're part of the inseparable oneness of all that is. Holiness is equivalent to the oneness that you share and really are. When we speak of your holiness, we're talking about your capital S, self, right? Big S, self. I change it to capital once in a while because big ass self sounds like big ass self, and I don't want to say big ass self, so I'm trying to say your higher self, yourself with a capital S, when we're writing about this stuff. Easier to read than, easier to see than to read.
And sometimes we flip to higher self.
Higher self is, all of those work. But in the book here I'm reading, it says big S self. So
I know.
keep an eye out for those capitals.
Yes, sir.
Or trying to verbally keep an eye out for those capitals. Anyway, this is
Bye.
not the part of your split mind that perceives itself to be separate, autonomous being. Your little s self follows the ego thought system based on its belief in sin, guilt, and fear. And my dad and I were actually saying big S self before we started reading Tom's book and saw that Tom had written it out too. And when we saw that the first day, it was kind of like, we're not alone in our big S-ness. The sonship is all God created as God created it. The sonship is holiness itself. Its holiness remains unaffected by your denial of your divine birthright. The sonship is a synonym for the Son of God.
And childship doesn't work.
No, it really doesn't. But S-U-N, sonship, sure does. And I really wish it was, the ship of light. It just sounds so much better than the ship of a little boy. The sonship. All right. The sonship is
Light ship?
all... Yeah, light ship. I like all of those. But, well, S...
Why are we talking about this?
That's a good point. Thank you, Adriana. Keep on task. All right.
Yeah, please.
The real world is heaven, or the kingdom. This reflects creation, which is all God created as God created it. The real world is a reflection of the truth of God. Innocence is the truth about your true nature. This innocence comes from the oneness that we really are. We share God's innocence. We do not realize that one of the qualities of God is innocence. God is innocent because God is only aware of the truth with a capital T. God does not know the false worlds that our egos imagine. Since God only knows the truth, God does not judge or condemn what the ego believes. God does not judge or condemn what the ego perceives. The split-minded actually perceive the false due to their belief in separation. Good morning, Rosa. Yet our perception is not based on the truth. Perception differs from knowledge because perception requires thinking due to our uncertainty. Thinking is really in the realm of judgment. Our ego is a big judging machine. Understanding eyes represent the vision of Christ. The vision of Christ represents seeing through the thought system of the Holy Spirit. Light is equivalent to understanding the truth. It's the realization of the truth of our being part of this oneness. Salvation would be equivalent to the healing of separation. Salvation comes from your own forgiveness. Forgiveness is the healing of our sense of guilt that arose from our belief in separation. It's the reclaiming of our sense of oneness. We previously stated that A Course in Miracles used the term forgiveness in a special way. In order to forgive, we need to recognize that what we thought our brother did to us never actually occurred. Why? Because it's just part of our own egoic projection, part of our misperception, and part of our own dreaming mind. Therefore, our dream has no ability to impact the truth of what we really are. Therefore, our dream has no ability to impact the truth of what we really are. We said earlier that if something has no ability to change reality, it's not a cause. It's merely fantasy that appears to impact the delusional mind that perceives the event to be real. Our brother is merely an actor in our screenplay. The screenplay is designed to help us learn the lessons needed to reclaim our divine birthright. As such, they are really blessings. The gift of God is equivalent to God's will for the sonship, which is the peace of God. God wants us only to be happy. We reclaim our happiness when we accept the atonement for ourselves. Although we haven't talked much about the atonement stands for the at-one-ment of all. In other words, we're bringing everybody together with our atonement. When you accept the atonement for yourself, you reject the belief in lack, limitation, and separation. You accept the truth of your unity with this oneness. The innocent have no concept of guilt, fear, or sin. They're not held accountable for their actions because they do not judge things as right or wrong. They're not judging, but merely seeking new experience from which to enjoy and learn. They're curious. They do not have an ulterior motive. And they are not trying to hurt anybody. Instead, they only desire to experience and be with the event itself. We are all sharing and playing in the game of separation. We desire to learn the truth about ourselves and actually be that truth. Shoot. I was trying to get the whole thing on the screen and I lost my place.
Within the place, third paragraph, Lee. We are all sharing. That's where you were.
Thanks, Paolo.
Mm-hmm.
Within the play school of time and space, the game of separation has no power to hurt a child of God, unless one chooses to believe that they can be hurt. The game has no effect on our reality, but it does provide opportunities to demonstrate who and what you believe you are. Did I need to go back and read those first two sentences, Papa?
It's good.
Okay. To bless is to offer good and only good. God blesses me, since God intends all good things to be mine. God supports me. God protects me. God directs me in all things. I merely need to silence the voice for fear and follow the Holy Spirit's guidance. My world is a reflection of me. My strength, power, and safety come from God, my source, which is unlimited. I can only appear
There
limited.
was a comma there after God, and then a period after unlimited.
Thanks, Dad. Appreciate
Good.
that. I can only appear limited in my own mind's imagination, yet my delusional mind has no ability to change the truth. I will read the sentence the way my dad wants me to, though. Here we go. My world is a reflection of me. My strength, power, and safety come from God, my source, which is unlimited. I can only appear limited in my own mind's imagination, yet my delusional mind has no ability to change the truth.
This is, Tom, this is a spectacular...
I'm going to go back and bring us down now to the meditation. Dad, you're right. It is
It's a spectacular summary of everything that we have talked about. Tom, you really outdid yourself on this particular series of notes here. This is terrific.
I'm sure Tom is saying to himself, it came through me.
Yeah. Just an
Go ahead, Tom.
I don't think he heard you, Lee.
I talked over you by accident. Go ahead and say it again.
He did.
And he's gone.
Yeah, we lost him as well in Zoom.
He may be having some network issues.
Yeah,
he's right there. He's
right
just
there.
All that's left is his hood.
Hey, Tom. What were you going to say?
Ah!
We can't hear you. Take your mute off. I want to hear you.
Well, let's all do an Adriana.
We're going to take a nice deep breath here. Nice deep cleansing breath. We're going to do our lesson. We'll have all this stuff behind us by about 7:03. So give me 5 minutes. Let's get ready for our day. Take a deep breath. Connect with where you are connected to the earth. Feel your body's lowermost chakra connect and grow with our Mother Earth so we can be grounded throughout our day. Today is a beautiful Sunday of joy where we can spread our holiness to the rest of the world, because the holiness of the world is all I truly see. I'm going to let you control your own breathing today. Please take nice, deep breaths while I review our lesson for today. Deep, cleansing breaths are the best way to control yourself, control your emotions, and put yourself in the mood that you want to be in. This course is a course of mind control. And the most important thing you need to control are where your emotions send you without your permission. Mind control is guiding our thoughts, because our thoughts produce the emotions we have. When we get sad, it's because we're thinking sad thoughts. Those thoughts we are in complete control of. That's how we control our emotions. And we control our thoughts very much through controlling our breath. So take some nice deep breaths while I read through some of these lesson points.
Can I try something here while we're...
Yeah.
Yeah? How about everybody, meanwhile they are breathing and feeling comfortable in your chair, sofa, take those deep breaths in. And let's imagine that you and the chair have become as one on a molecular level. Your molecules and that of the chair are transferring back and forth between one another. You're not stretching, but rather connecting to the molecules, becoming as one. Now, imagine that on a molecular level, you are a part of everything in the room. Expand outward and become as one with the outside world. Imagine that you're a part of the area that you have around you, then the country that you're in. Imagine that you're a part of the entire earth, connecting to earth, land, and sea. Every creature, every nation on this planet, until you and the earth are one and the same. Imagine that you and the universe are one and the same. Imagine that you are a part of all the bright white lights. Imagine that you are a part of the jelly-like substance with all the colors of the rainbow. Imagine that you are part of an iridescent white light that is the seventh plane of existence. Become as one with this bright, iridescent white light. Take a deep breath in and feel part of that pure light. Your body will not disappear, it's just becoming one with the light. And there you are in the light, and let's hear Lee's guidance in these lessons for today.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I needed that this morning. Today, my holiness envelops everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Through forgiveness, I'm no longer guilty, and I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. My holiness blesses the world. Everyone and everything I see in its light shares in the joy it brings to me. There's nothing apart from this joy, because there's nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize this holiness inside of me, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. It's unlimited in its power to heal, because it's unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from, except the illusions of our ego? And what are all these illusions? Just false ideas about myself. My holiness undoes those ideas by asserting the truth about me. The ego lies, and God protects and holds holy this space for us to return to. It is our salvation because it saves us from all guilt and allows us to recognize salvation in our life. With that, nothing can make me afraid because I've accepted my holiness. And because I'm unafraid, everyone must share in my strength and understanding, which are the gift of God to me and all the world. I am truly blessed as a child of God. This is why it's safe to claim all good and only good today and for the rest of my life and for all of your lives. We are blessed children of God, and all good things are ours because God intended them for us. My illusions keep me from thinking this, but the real truth is I can't suffer any loss or deprivation or pain because of who I am. My Father supports me and protects me and directs me in all things. His care for me is infinite and is with me forever, as I am eternally blessed as his child. Let's bring our awareness back to where we connect with the earth. Bring your awareness back to where you are rooted in this world. Take with you these thoughts today. Remind yourself so that you have a safe place to return to. These thoughts that we set forth first thing in the day are like seeds that you plant for a great day. And I'll be here every morning planting these seeds for you. So come back and join me tomorrow. And for the rest of today, enjoy this space. And I'll let you breathe your way back into our group, where we're going to hold a safe place for at least a couple of hours for us to sit and chat. You are all so very welcome here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you all for holding a little bit of silence for us. Very, very grateful that you're joining us. I'd love to know what you think about the lesson or how the lessons have been helping you.
Well, I do have to say that I had to take a moment while you were reading because, let me just fix a little bit the volume. You did it. Thank you. Okay, so I was thinking about how different could be. It's just that I'm amazed by words etymology always, because it always gives me like this kind of hints of another level of understanding. So while you were talking about atonement or reading about the atonement, I said, what a wonderful way has the English language to use this kind of words as atonement, or forgiveness. Because forgiveness in Spanish, you could say that it's perdonar, that it's like to forgive somebody, to like give him like your or being excused. Or you could say olvidar in Espanol, that it's also in Spanish, that it also means forgiveness, but it's like you get to don't remember any of it. So in Spanish we have two words for one single word that you have in English, that it's forgiveness. So it's beautiful to see it in English because it has like double power for me.
Yeah.
And atonement, that if you break the word in this parts, you have atonement, and it's really powerful. But when you go to the Spanish word of it, you get expiación, and it means like purifying something that has been profane or something.
Purifying something that was profane. Okay.
Yeah. So in Spanish, that's why I always got stuck while I was reading this in English, because atonement, it's so easy it's so easy and so beautiful concept in English, but when you go into the Spanish language, it's so full of I don't know. It is full like negativity in some form in my mind. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like that for everybody. But for me, and I don't know if Luisa agree with this, expiación, it's such a like dense word, so it has always some kind of difficulty within my mind to just really like embrace that concept like something good, because it is attached to so many definitions on bad things, like
And I think the word
erasing
atonement
guilt.
for a lot of us definitely has that thing. Atoning for our sins is the most common phrase when you're using the word atonement. And so it actually has a lot of, I've got to suffer for this. I've got to pay the price for this. I've got to reparations. I've got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to whatever it takes to really truly atone for this mistake. I've got to make it right.
It's like linked to that kind of, I had to sacrifice something, and so
but it's not that way.
Maybe because we don't speak English, atonement sounds much softer, because when we speak about expiación, there is a guilt. For me, expiación is, I'm guilty. And it has a very Christian or Catholic, or I don't know. It's like,
atonement too.
You sinner. Yeah, it's not. It's a very heavy word for me.
Yeah, it's exactly. That's nice for you to say that, Lucy, because it's really a validation. It's just that when we say atonement in our world, in our Colombian minds, it's easier. It's beautiful because we don't have that charge of past beliefs. It's like Tom always said, you have been indoctrinated into some kind of a platform of concepts, and you need to get rid of them. So for me, that's beautiful to have this other word like atonement instead of expiación. So I always try to find the meaning on the words in etymology, because that gives me really another full concept on things, and I can see that for you represent that as well. But it was fun to see how my mind is really. It's just that really the mind has such a complexity on concepts for you to keep you apart from the truth. And atonement is one beautiful word for me.
Too many gringos. Now, I want to say that in the Hebrew language, we have the holiest day of the year is Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. And we have to fast all day. We go to the synagogue and stay in the synagogue all day, which was enough of a punishment for me. Never mind, that's not fair. But there are beautiful, in the prayers on that day are all about the holiness and that's the interesting connection here. The prayers themselves are the highest and most glorious ways of explaining to us how great God is. All through the day, we remember that. That's the idea of it. And, they have the ram's horn, they blow the shofar, and they pray. And then at the end of the day, there's a celebration of the breaking of the fast, breakfast. And they have lots of, everybody brings stuff to eat, cakes and wine and celebration. And it is a very important celebration because in the Jewish understanding, you have between the Rosh Hashanah, which is the beginning of the new year, you have 10 days to Yom Kippur. And in those 10 days, you're supposed to go to anybody that you have offended last year and ask for their forgiveness. You got to clean your slate face to face. And if you have done something, you have to make amends for it. So that's like the reparation side. And this, I'm going to say the superstition is that if you don't do that, you're not going to make it through the next year, in the sense that at the end of the day of Yom Kippur, God writes in the book of the living or the book of the dead. I never remember which one they call it, but you
The
ain't
book
going
of the
through the
living,
next year.
I guess it
So
was.
you got to clean up your act by Yom Kippur. And then there's a big celebration because we assume that you did. And everybody is very happy. And that's the only day of the year that my father would take a drink of schnapps, celebrating Yom Kippur. So it's quite a big celebration at the end of a really rough time of struggling with your own mess, and saying, it's a time for being quiet and considering what you've done during the last year. So that's what the Day of Atonement is in
That's
the
nice.
Jewish religion.
You're connecting a lot of situations that I lived with Roberto, my father-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to have like another whole level of meaning now for us, because the word itself means just that. You accept the truth of your unity with this oneness. So therefore, you need to have some time within yourself to just get rid of all those grievances and resentments that you have for everybody and every circumstance in your life, to feel at one. So that's really nice to know.
That's why we celebrate Festivus.
What?
Festivus is a holiday that was popularized by Jerry Seinfeld. It's kind of a joke, but Festivus is it's like another Christmas, but it's the day that you get to air grievances, and there's a silver pole where you can hang up all your resentments, and it's literally like a joke, the opposite about this, and that's sometimes what our egos do. It's kind of to play up that how ridiculous that we had to make a day to do this. Either atonement or the silly other side that I just mentioned. It's just, my God, we have really made our lives a lot harder than they have to be.
These this
Festivals for the
summary
rest of
lesson,
us.
this
That's
summary
right.
lesson talks really about our holiness, but it's really asking you to see yourself in a totally different light than what we've been brought up to believe about ourselves. Basically saying that if you start accepting the idea that you're holy or whole, that there's not anything wrong with you. It's just your plan that you've been brought up to believe. You start looking from the idea that if I'm whole, if I'm perfect, whole, and complete, then there's no real sin, guilt, or lack. and it's starting to give you a different starting off point for a total new belief system, because our belief system that we've been indoctrinated into is one that says that we're a sinner, that there's separation, that we've done something wrong, and now we have to, I use the word atone, from the sense that we have to earn redemption. And so it makes us an earner instead of a learner. And if we're a earner, then we have to get a particular result. If we don't get that result, or once the situation is resolved so that it's over and done with, we look and we say, as a judger, did I get the result that I wanted or not? And so it turns us into a judging machine in which we're constantly deciding whether or not we've made the grade. If we didn't make the grade, we do one of two things. We look typically for something to blame, okay, whether it's ourself or some other party or instrument for not following our plan so that we got the result. But often we blame ourselves for our failure, and we confirm this idea of lack and separation. So as soon as we've turned into an earner, we are all constantly looking and saying, did I get the result? If we see ourselves as perfect, whole, and complete, that there's no really lack, that we're only as God created us, which is unconditional love, then we've got a whole different mindset. And in these lessons, it also says a couple of things, like in lesson, well, the summary lesson, which would be lesson 37, says, as I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. So one of the biggest things that we can do for, you call it the world, humanity, or whatever, is to recognize the truth about ourselves. And the law of God is to give, is to receive. The ego's law is we only give to get. But if we realize that the law of God is to give, is to receive, when I give myself, when I drop all the guilt, blame, and shame, and I give myself permission to accept God's love and see myself as unconditional love, or perfect, whole, and complete, that not a sinner, but an adventuresome aspect of the one self. And when I give myself that freedom from guilt, I also give that to my brothers and sisters and my world. And so my world is a reflection of me, and it becomes a situation. What do I want to reflect? If I see myself perfect, whole, and complete, or holy, then that's what I'm going to reflect out. And I'm going to, since the law of God is to give is to receive, I'm going to give that same thing to all that I come in contact with. And my world will be a brighter place. And we will have lifted our brothers and sisters, everybody, reduce their fear a little bit, because we'll be looking through the eyes of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Yeah, well, I have to say that everything, it's just like every single day that passed by has some kind of information that I could use for the next day lessons. So as this is all about the holiness of the world is all I see, and I was yesterday having this huge waiting and then I already received my results, my biopsy results, and I don't have cancer. I am free of cancer. I do have this virus but I don't have any cancer, so I don't have to do any treatment at all. I just have to check myself every 6 months, and it can be just I mean, it just can be something that my immune system can defeat within months or not, or I can live with it for my entire life, but it's nothing that threatens anything in my body. So I was really, really happy yesterday, and I had this, as I changed my mind on this event, and I said to myself, well, this is a gift. I'm gonna see it as a gift after yesterday's lesson. I went to the doctor's appointment. I mean, ever since I ended the lesson with all of you in the room, I started to have like a different experience because, for example, Luisa joined me in a call, and a wonderful and joyful call, and we have so much laughter and fun talking to each other. So when the time came for me to go to the doctor's appointment, I wasn't even worried at all. I was just happy. And I went with my doctors and having this kind of feeling like everything is going to be good, even if I had cancer or not. Everything's going to be good. And I went there with the mindset of this is a gift. And yeah, the whole diagnosis was a gift. But the gift was that my doctor really, it was really being in the presence of a father. I even end up crying because this doctor, he has been my gynecologist like ever since I got pregnant. So he knows me that like since my daughter was born. He brought my daughter into this world with me, and he's such a professional, such a good professional, but he never got like this kind of personal level of trust with me. I mean, he just took a moment during his appointment to say such a beautiful words to me that I really felt like in the presence of a father. And that was the gift, in fact. It was a beautiful, beautiful
It's so nice.
situation, and I wanted just to share that because then I realized that I have always missed my dad, my physical level dad. But in fact, I had never lost him because he has been appearing among all other person in my experience that has given me this kind of experiences. I mean, for example, Bob here, my doctor, my father-in-law that has already died, the Grandpa Luis, the one that has 102 years old. And then I recognize my father in all of those experiences in the past, and I had another huge validation that I have never been left behind by a father, never. It's just that I was insisting that I needed to see it with my own eyes in some specific form, but he has always been there. And that was a huge and wonderful gift to have because I have already learned that I have always been supported my whole life, but the presence of the Father, I never got that strong belief that I really have been always in the presence of the Father, but I never saw it because I was just being stubborn that I needed to see it in the form of my dad here in the physical form, and that's not true.
I'm so glad you transcended that idea because it really is not only beautiful, but it opens you up to learn from everybody because we are all connected that way. And if anything, working with my dad for the last 6 years, reading this book every single morning with him, that has opened me up to the generalized nature of my consciousness and how much it permeates the world. And I get it back. As soon as we start opening our minds up, we're going to get a lot of info on a bunch of different levels, and we got to be a little bit more control of our minds, like we talked about earlier.
It's somewhat unfortunate that in the West and what than in the East, but the Western religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they talk of the Father. It would be so much nicer, I think, if they would just use the word mother, because I think whenever people hear the word father, we associate it with conditional love, which is something now that will be removed from us if we don't make the grade, that we have to earn it. And a mother's love uh, is more unconditional. I mean, it can turn into something else, but I think we normally associate a mother's love as just a giving of itself, which is more what God, and they talk about God's innocence in this. Uh, God doesn't see his creation as anything but perfect, whole, and complete.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and I think that's more in line with a mother. Whenever the baby uh, comes out and is given to her, she just, loves whatever it is. She doesn't say, "Well, this child is ugly" or "this baby is ugly." She just
And
says,
they are ugly.
"Wow,
And they are. They're all ugly.
amazing,
Yeah. They all look
amazing.
like
Look what."
Tom when they come out.
Yeah. So,
I
uh,
have the problem with the word mother sometimes because I feel like my mother has some conditions on my love, but my father loves me unconditionally.
yeah,
So maybe it's that. What about just the non-personification of
yeah,
God so that it's not even tied to, I don't, that's a harder thing to ask for and get. What do you picture if you're doing your best to get out of the idea that God is a personified thing? Because, hey, what if I'm an alien that lives on my planet as an alien? I want God to look like me, my God,
yeah.
you know?
And
Well,
I think that the East, the Eastern view, that is this more nebulous form that God is in everything, everywhere, and takes all kinds of forms, shapes, uh, and I think it's a lot uh, easier to view because, like probably Lee said, I guess uh, in regards to our relationships, we might have a stronger relationship or different feelings as to my, you know, mother or father. Like I don't really, my experience is that there was no love from either one of them. but
For you,
but
it's the
That
same.
is
from
tough.
what I you know get, or at least the image that I have as a mother is more accepting and
How's
loving.
the name?
And
How's the name of the woman that you talk about in the book that you were like? It's just that the last name,
oh,
her.
her name was Mrs. Barchesky.
Yeah,
Yeah, and and only met her once, or I, but
but she gave
when
you that
I
experience, right?
met her,
That's
it was a
unconditional.
total strange thing because I never met anybody at that time that treated me decently or that was willing to do something for me with no strings attached. And it wasn't a big thing. All that she was willing to do, she offered to make me a grilled cheese sandwich, which is my favorite food from then on. Now I refused it because in my mindset at that time, I couldn't uh, I couldn't allow, because it went so against my thought system, that anyone could be offering to do something nice to me. It was just so foreign, a foreign concept, that I just had to get out of there. But it did open up my eyes that somehow she didn't see the devil incarnate, and it took me a long time to uh, say that there might be another way of looking at myself, because that's what I had been programmed into believing. And because of the way my mind works, that's what I tried to live up to. is to be that devil. And so,
But
it's
you had those experiences
amazing
from
when,
her and from all the other. I mean, we have been having these experiences of the unconditional love of a father or a mother throughout our experience in different in shapes or in different forms, but they have been always there, because the same kind of kindness she showed you when you were younger, without asking you to give up anything or do anything or be different from what you were in that specific moment, was the same kind of love that you got from that other woman that you told us about, that she was really willing to love you no matter what, and you weren't like willing to accept that kind of love, right? It's like
yeah,
this kind of same experiences all over again during the content of our lives. But once we are starting to awaken to this reality of the holiness of the world and everything we see, that is all there is, in fact, then you really start to recognize it within the content of your life, and you start really to feel better about the past experience, because then you realize that even though you at that moment thought you were alone, helpless and abandoned, you were never alone. I mean, there were always some kind of angels in form of people that gave you those kinds of experiences. And it's beautiful that you bring the female part of it, because in my own experience was my father, but in some other people's experiences, it's the mother that has been like left or not in the right connection. So whatever it is, even if it is male or female, it's just the concept of unconditional love in one way or another, that it needs to be integrated within yourself in order for you to move forward with a next chapter in your life, and with an integrated concept of reality.
yeah.
It's
In my case, I speak of God or something. I don't really see God as a male, but uh, I just wanted to say something in regards to, a miracle. They say a miracle is a interlocking chain of events, and it's a transformation, that happens, and we don't understand, or we don't even realize that we might be creating a miracle for someone. I'm sure that that lady, and she wasn't necessarily a strong influence. Like, I saw her that one day, and I think I might have saw her through the the door some other time in my life. But that one event, which I'm sure she didn't think anything of, uh, transformed ultimately my life, and she wouldn't even know. I'm sure she doesn't know who I am or anything like that, and she's probably dead now. But it was just one act, a small little act of love, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was because she was making one for her son. Doesn't really matter. The way I saw that was she was doing something, and to myself in that world, that was such a shock, a strange happening that it took me years to uh, reconcile that, but it sent me on a different path, that maybe what I was told maybe wasn't 100% the truth, and that there was a possibility. And fortunately, the Holy Spirit was able to drive me through that little opening and get me to start seeing things in a different light. So we don't know, what we do. We don't know how we influence somebody else. A small act of kindness, which she, like I said, I attributed some story to her that she was doing that out of act of love, and that's how I choose to see it. and that's my story. But that was a miracle. It took a number of years maybe for it to take total fruit, but it sent me in a totally different direction. We tend to look at life and we see things as a kind of a linear line, and hopefully it's a linear upward progression. But there's moments in your life that are key, that if you pick up on the learning lesson that they provide, it can send you into where quantum physics might call it a alternate reality, but it can send your path in a totally different trajectory. And 20 years, 5 years, 2 minutes, you can be off in a totally different direction, and it's transformational. And people don't realize that when you're walking around and you smile at somebody, that might be the thing that transforms someone's life. And it mentions in here, see yourself as guiltless, see yourself as the light, and you will brighten someone else's world. But since to give is to receive, you really brighten your own.
That's
And once you
amazing.
start doing that, you start loving everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Janine, you were trying to share something earlier, and Sean, then, will you share with us?
I kind of got caught up in everybody's sharing, and I kind of lost where I was. I think I was just going to say to the earlier point about God, how I really like saying Mother, Father, God, because I feel God is this omnipotent, magnificent force that is really, it's hard for me to say one or the other. But I appreciate, I notice, Tom, you'll say, I think you'll use the feminine when you're referring to God sometimes. And I appreciate that, because people always say, father instead of mother. So I like that. But for me, in my own mind, I usually say mother, father, God. It just helps me to, especially since the world is we so multifaceted, and, we're
I
male
agree.
and female. And I just think
I
somebody said,
agree. It
yeah,
helps me
somebody
get out of that
said,
personification part too. Father, Mother, God isn't something that I can perceive as a human ever. So that's like first step in getting out of, it's not a person. It loves me in a whole different way than love could ever be expressed by a person. Even the best unconditional love I could imagine doesn't
yeah,
come close to touching. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Well, Sean, do you want to share something with us? And good morning.
We're listening to you, bro.
If you're speaking, we can't hear you. There's something, he
So,
has some issue with his mic, probably. Sean? Yeah, no, you're trying, but we are not able to hear you.
I did a little bit while we're waiting for
sorry about it.
Sean to
And anybody else who wants to raise their hand from down below, if you want to share, you're welcome to. Sorry, Dad, go ahead.
a little bit more about Yom Kippur, because it really summarizes a lot about the Jewish character. Yom Kippur has a prayer called Kol Nidre, and the words themselves are Aramaic, which is the actual language that Jesus spoke in, and it's about forgiveness, but it takes on different meanings through the ages because it's been around for a very long time. In the Middle Ages, when Jews were persecuted big time and forced to agree that Mohammed was the prophet, the real prophet, or that renounced Judaism and become a Christian, and all of these things. From the Jewish point of view, this was very troubling. And the majority of the prayer, and it's only about 3 minutes, but they sing it 3 times, and who usually does he's the cantorist is, I'm not sure if it's a common word or not, but he's the leader of the prayers. He'll sing it. If he's got a good voice, it's a very haunting voice, and they go through it 3 times for a particular reason. And it talks more about if I've made any vows or promises during the year, I now can be completely absolved from them. And at the end of the prayer, which, as I said, is 3 minutes, it basically says you are absolved from those. We don't think about that so much these days. Getting out of a contract would be similar, but putting that aside, that's more the earner than the learner. If we've made a promise that we're going to change our faith or the religion, then that gets absolved on Yom Kippur, and that became the most important aspect of this. And at the end of the prayer, it says, there are 3, like a tribunal of angels that say together, you are absolved of your vows that you cannot complete or don't want to complete. It's a very deep thing that it is here, and
Do you remember the name of the angels that they are mentioned there?
I don't know, but etymological Adriana, I will find out for you and let you know. But the song, the melody, I've heard it played by cellists and violins. I've heard it sung by people with great. Neil Diamond even sang it. I assume he was Jewish. I don't really know. But so many people, that is the single most highest level prayer there is in the Jewish faith on that night at that moment. So it's the night before Yom Kippur. They also blow the ram's horn, the shofar, and it has tremendous power. And I know that my father used to prepare for it in his mind during those 10 days between the New Year and Yom Kippur, because they want to start the New Year off right and have a clean slate, so to speak. So I on Google, I think there's probably about 10 different cantors or Neil Diamonds that have sung it. I could play it, but just so you can hear the haunting melody of it, it's really quite. But I would want to go through them quickly first and kind of pick the one that would be the best to hear if you'd like to do that.
Sounds like it could be good for tomorrow or the next day if you want.
Yeah,
No big deal.
yeah.
I wanted to add something, Bob, and just thank you so much for your explanation of Yom Kippur. And it's a shame that we're not really taught in school about other religions. It's funny, we don't have school. I remember not having school on Yom Kippur, I think, and maybe a Rosh Hashanah, or at least it's
Yeah.
on the calendar, and you just kind of go along with it. You don't know much about it. I know my girlfriend is in Maryland, and a part of Maryland, they have the Hasidic Jews, Jewish people that walk through the streets, wearing their black, and they have the little curly cues at the side of their head, and I just always looked at them like I was just like, whoa, look at that. Like they were just these mysterious figures. I didn't know anything about it. So I don't know how the Hasidic Jews are different from other sects of Jewish people. So how are they different?
That's a good question. I can do it briefly. It could take a long time, but the Hasidic people are very, very orthodox. It's kind of like super orthodox. And
Did I say that wrong? I said Hasidic. How did you say it?
well, the the actual Hebrew would be Hasidic, but
Hasidic.
don't worry
Okay.
about it too much. That's kind of hard for most people to come out with that. It's kind of
Got
like
it.
the way Adriana twirls her R's.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do that with either. But anyway, the Hasidim, that would be the plural for the word Chassid, are generally held as very holy people who adhere very closely to all of the traditions and the methods of acting a Jewish life. And the curlicues that you call them, they're called payas in Hebrew. And it simply is the fact that they don't cut it. They don't cut the sideburns. They're allowed to grow, and they just like curling it. And I don't even know how long that's been a tradition, but it's not so much that they have to do that, but they generally do just because it, I mean, it's like the equivalent of dreadlocks in a way, because it symbolizes their brand of the Jewish holiness. So that would be probably a good way of doing it. If they go in the streets, I know that it was always a quiet um, moment during the whole day. Of course, when we were kids, we thought because our rabbi had a long beard and he would do like this. He would like just kind of massages the hairs of his beard a lot. And we figured out that he actually, because we were supposed to be fasting all day, that he actually had food hidden behind the beard. And we were looking real close to see if he was actually getting a little bite of something during the day of Yom Kippur. Because if you break the fast during the day, you may not get your sins. And we had all of these little childish things that we talked about. Another thing that they do is there's a certain part, because we pray all day in the synagogue, and the Jewish people, they all have special prayers for the departed. So if your parent or someone close to you, a blood relative, had died in the last year, then you stand up, but not everybody does for that particular prayer, and it helps forgive them too. And it's really one day of it's super holy. It is the holiest day of the year, the Day of Atonement, and they take it very seriously. Obviously, nobody does anything else but stay in the synagogue. Those that are religious to that degree, not everybody spends the whole day there. Um,
I
some of
have
them
the
have to
English
get.
translation of the of the Kol Nidre. Do you
Did you
want me
see?
to read it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It says, all vows and prohibitions and oaths and consecration and konams and konasi and synonymous terms that we may vow or swear or consecrate or prohibit upon ourselves from the previous day of atonement until this day of atonement, and from this day of atonement until the next day of atonement that will come for our benefit. Regarding all of them, we repudiate them. All of them are
Repudiate.
repudiate, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All of them are undone, abandoned, cancelled, null, and void, not in force and not in effect. Our vows are no longer vows, and our prohibitions, I don't know how to say it right, but and our prohibitions are no longer prohibitions, and our oaths are no longer oaths. And our oaths are no longer oaths. That's what it
Yeah, and,
says.
and, and as a kid, that also included if you swear at somebody, and why they even use, who figured out in the English language that saying an obscene word is swearing at, but that kind of stuff too, you're being forgiven for that.
Yeah.
So those are the things that they hold as just to be very important, and that's what Yom Kippur is. So that gives you a new thing. But you know what? It's really interesting, Adriana, because when you said that you don't learn in school about the Jewish, no, was it you or Louisa? Somebody, you said it, I think.
It was Janine.
It's me.
Janine, that's right. But by the same token, Janine, I'll say right back to you that we don't, unfortunately, learn about the history of the Black people in the school that I went to. But of course, that's a big complaint today anyway. We are missing so much because we don't understand other people's religions. And if we did, we would see how similar they are rather than how different they are. And it would speak volumes of love and trying to get together by understanding, because understanding is the way. When you can understand another person, then it's really hard to hate them, because you, in many ways, you see them as yourself. When you really understand what both of them
Beautiful,
stand.
I
Bob.
would
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I think we
Well
should all
put.
be
Well put.
curious about each other, and that curiosity, of course, bring love, and you know, that would be really wonderful. And I know people who are, I'm sure you do too, people that are still just very homogenous in their
Yeah, yeah.
viewpoint and then who they associate with. And I'm thinking, wow, you're really missing out, you know.
Even what is it? What's that movie? Um, uh, something Alabama. What is it with? Where the girls have this clique and they don't let anybody else in. What is it? Sweet Home Alabama? Is that what it is? That's a
No
song.
idea what you're talking about.
There's a movie
It's a song and a movie.
where,
I got that, but I don't know the name of
okay,
it.
and there's a very beautiful blonde actress who plays the part of. She goes to law school and she gets a degree,
Oh
but
my
on the
God.
way,
You're talking about
come on, that's
paralegal.
the one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So, and she has a clique, and there's another clique of girls in her, or women in her, at Harvard, that are very different from these, and the scorn that is heaped on them, and it's all about separation. All that stuff, joining in groups against other groups. It's the scourge of our planet. It's what drives Putin to conquer more land, and I'm not getting into politics, but I'm just saying it's the grouping without the allowing of groups to come together. Stay away from them, that kind of stuff. And
How
it's a
about if we let Sean speak?
oh, good.
If he's good now with his mic, Sean, can you share with us?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, Sean is
Oh,
always
good. Yeah,
good.
I had to
He's always
reboot my
good.
phone. My phone decided to atone for something, but
Oh,
couldn't help it. So
That's good.
I wanted to say, like, the points earlier, like, the original kind of phrase is atone for your sins, right? And I think when people think of sins, it's something they've done wrong or something they've done bad in the past, right?
yep.
So immediately, as opposed to talking about the present, the atonement for sins immediately like brings up the past, which is not where God is, right? So just by that very definition, in my opinion, it's not of God. What is of God is looking at things in the present, and things in the present sins are feeling shameful, feeling sinful, like feeling angry, or feeling apathetic, or feeling too prideful. For me, those are sins, right? Because it keeps me from that at one-ment, where if I start thinking about what's in alignment with God, which is courage, which is love, which is forgiveness, and even peace, regardless of all else, anything could be going on in the world and you see peace. And to me, that's at one-ment, because I feel at one with God when I'm in those higher energy patterns that I don't define as sin. And I think a lot of what we had talked about, be that the Spanish language, which is highly centralized from the church, right? So a lot of the sin language and a lot of the church language made it into that romantic language. So I think that, it's more of a carryover towards where the church used to control the town. It was, the church, the government, the everything else, right?
Yeah, the
And
family unit. They wanted to make sure that the man could reproduce and all that kind of stuff too.
okay, yeah, and it was that at one-ment, when Lee broke it down for me, and it took a while to really sink in, right? Because atoning is you would think amending or making amends. And, one of the fellowship programs I was a part of, amends was not just saying you're sorry, but being the apology by being a better person, or, being a loving person. And that, is atonement. That is amends, right? You can't just say you're sorry. You have to practice what you had not done before. And I think that's what's so amazing about this group is that, I think this group as a whole, the goal is to be at one with God. I think if you just boil it down to everything we've talked about in every meeting, it's being at one. And I think that's a heck of an objective, because not only do we lift the spirits of the people that we talk to on this phone, but after we get off of this call, how many people in our lives are positively affected by our wanting to, rise up a couple of points spiritually, get out of our own muck. And, I just think that these calls are so beautiful because they reflect that. And I wanted to say thank you.
That's great, Sean. I love that. I was talking about groups before, that it's groups against groups, even the Jewish religion. And I'm not sure how it was in the very beginning, but in the synagogue, there is something called a mechitza, which is a separation, literally a wall. Going back hundreds of years, they were actually on a different floor with a window looking down. The women had to be separated from the men during all of these prayers, because they were going to be unduly influenced by their thoughts just to see a woman. This is the way it was. It's the way the religion developed. The more reform groups today don't bother with that. And I mean, I was brought up Orthodox, and I could see my mom, and I could hear her, but I couldn't. Well, there was a wall between us, and isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Another thing that goes back to what Tom's conversations versus Lee's conversations about whether you think of the father as being the one with unconditional love, or the mother. The general Orthodox tradition would on the one hand be a very loving father, and there are billions of stories. Even Fiddler on the Roof gives you an idea of the compassion that the man has. It also gives you the idea of the woman in Jewish tradition. I don't know if there are any other people here, Tamara maybe, who can give maybe a thought of what it felt like to be kind of separated, and that just the guys get to do the important stuff. They carry the Torah and they do these kinds of things. And I don't know if Tamara, if you were raised in what particular group, but it does change. And where does it start? Is it that the father has to be the be all end all, the authority, the one who metes out the punishments, or is it the mother who does it in the name of love, or whatever else she comes up with? It's the way it is. It's really interesting how separation, which this brings us back to A Course in Miracles, separation is really the scourge of human evolution. As long as you separate, you can be conquered. That's the way of the world. Look how, no, I'm not going there with the other
Yeah,
stuff.
but in fact, it's just that the separation happens outside, but I mean, you see it outside, but the separation is within you. So you don't have to convince anybody that they are being separated, because the first job that we have to do is within us. I was talking with Steph yesterday, and we realized that whenever we need to build something new in the same foundation, you just need to like tear everything down. If it's going to be rebuilt again, it needs to be like tear down. So whenever a conflict is in front of you that seems like this huge chaos and huge like wrongdoing of things, it's just because you need to build something, and you will. And whenever it's time of war in the world, you will always find the best behavior in people. I mean, not in the people that are making this war happen, but the people that are around the conflict is the most high moment of themselves to bring this help. I'm sorry. The kindness gets higher when we are in trouble. The love gets higher when we are all in this kind of fearful state. So, yes, you can see that outside of you, but it is always within you, and then therefore it forces you to be brighter or be more loving or be more helpful than you ever was before, because you didn't have that in front of you. So I just wanted to add that because I thought it was like relevant to what you were saying, but I was interrupting you because I saw George that he was having his mic on, but as I was like moderating, I turned it off. George, do you want to share with us something? I did on the thing in your mic, but you can unmute yourself and share with us if you want. And hello, Stanley, and hello, Tamara, and hello, everybody that has been coming into the session later. So welcome, everybody.
And I think I saw Carol on mic earlier, so
Okay, great.
sounds like there's a
Carol, do
couple of
you want to
people.
share? Caro. I think she's busy, probably.
People get busy. People kind of walk around. They do stuff. They get ready for the day. It's about 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. We started about 6:30 in the morning reading the workbook Lessons from A Course in Miracles. Today I read lesson 58, which is a summary lesson that brings together the first 50 lessons over the course of about a week or so. And today's theme is the holiness of the world is all I see. And of course, we brought up atonement and a bunch of other stuff. You're all welcome to come in and share. Just wanted to do a quick reset. Thank you all for being here.
And yes, for everybody that is right now seeing the chat, it is a new feature in Clubhouse. And we started to have this tool like 2 days ago, I guess it was rolled out. So yeah, we have a new feature in our room that is the chat, where we can all, like, instead of back channeling one-to-one, we can have this
So bottom left-hand
conversation.
corner of your screen, you'll see a little text bubble. So now we got text bubbles, we got back channels. I should have probably put those two things together since they already had chats and requests over there, but I don't know.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
really cool. I just found it. I was like, "Ooh, what's this?"
Yeah. Hey, and I want to just point this out. I don't know if you found it funny, but I did, and I don't know if it's worth for something, but I need to mention this. When we were beginning the session, when Tom was saying like the mother unconditional love is more like broader concept than the father's, Lee told something about like saying like, yeah, I can feel unconditional love from my father, but from my mom, I still have like that kind of, I don't know, some kind of barrier or something. He mentioned something like that, and we move on in the conversation. And later on, Bob just told us that he with his mom, because of your education in your Orthodox religion, you couldn't have that kind of connection with your mom. So it's really a good example how this kind of circumstances in one person's life can be passed on through generations without even you knowing about it. I mean, I just realized that in fact, you mentioned that you and your mom have that kind of wall, so you couldn't even like being able to reach her, reach or have this kind of contact with her like a regular mother and son perception, right? So it's funny to see that Lee has that kind of feeling as well. It has like this kind of repetition within your line. So it was, I mean, it is
Yes.
curious. I wanted to bring it to the table because this is like some example of how in our families we grab this information that we don't even know about what it's all about. For example, my daughter has this fear when I cut her nails. She does this kind of release. It's like if I was going to kill her. She's fearful, and that has nothing to do with any experience at all with her actual life. But his father had that as well, had that kind of fear of getting his nails cut, and he really gets tense. It's like they were being tortured in some form, so it's really something like out of this world. So
Wow.
it's funny to see those kind of situations because there's some kind of healing there that should be like reversed in order
Well,
for you
yeah.
to feel
Yes.
better.
And really, when you contrast Lee's experience with what Tom had with his parents, we realize that it doesn't really matter anymore. There's usually one parent who makes decisions, the important decision. We're moving this week, or whatever, and the woman is in charge of the kitchen. That's the traditional way. I mean, it's awful when you think about it that way, because today we don't even allow that, and that's because of the women's movement that brought us to understand that there's no difference. It is equal. We are equal. And that is another good example of coming together and breaking up this thing that separates us. Because women are now, well, we got a vice president now, and just all of those, and a black vice president, although some people say she's not black enough,
Yeah,
and all of this
changes are
kind of
happening.
silliness thing. But the coming together and getting rid of separation is the direction that we all need to be going in. And it takes something which we call God to be able to rise up high enough to see, oh, we are all human beings, and we're quite similar to beings on another planet that have 3 heads and they're 20 feet tall. It's, that would really differentiate a man from a woman. I mean, a man and a woman from another planet would be quite different from a man and a woman here. We assume, who knows? Um, but the separation is the problem, and it has to do. One of the things that Desmond Tutu, who passed away, one of the most famous sentences attributed to him, that talking to your friends is easy. If you want peace in this world, you have to talk to your enemies. Now, that's quite a statement from a head of state and someone who has the power that he has, but that's a way in the right direction. It's why he's held in such high esteem. And then you can take an example of Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr., and all these people are trying to get us to come together. And so in war, the first deal is to separate. So in peace, it's to come together. That's what the United Nations was formed for. All of these things, people miss it. The whole connectivity of what we're trying, supposedly we are trying to do on this planet, is to come together. John Lennon sang about it. I mean, it's all there. It's in the people that we hold in the highest esteem, and it's right here in our book. The holiness of the world is all I see. That's what we want. And we're not talking about part of the world. We're talking about the whole of the world. There is no separation that's required of human beings. So those are just some more thoughts. I was hoping that we would have something from someone else, but he's not in the room
Tom,
anymore.
Tom is
Yeah.
trying to say something, I
Good.
guess. He was
Hmm.
getting his
Well,
mic on.
okay. Well, what I was going to say, looking back and reflecting, my personal experience, I wouldn't really have, really comes not probably from my father or my mother, because I didn't have, a loving experience from either one of them. But it comes probably from my background as being raised a Catholic. And of course, they have the Father, the Son, and back then the Holy Ghost, now the Holy Spirit. But whenever they spoke of God as uh, that, my upbringing back then, that God was a father, but it was a very judgmental God. And therefore, the whole concept that God could be unconditional love was totally foreign. So it was hard for me to see a father figure as someone of unconditional love because just of my, I'm going to say religious background. And that's why I started off, I think, mentioning that I think the uh, religions of the West, where they have tends to have a personal God, a single God, uh, and that tends to be a fatherly figure. And the religions, the way they're generally interpreted, not the mystical traditions, but the religious traditions, is a very judgmental, revengeful type God. Uh, whereas in the East, if you get into Taoism, Hinduism, um, Buddhism, you're going to see a more uh, loving God, or more going with the flow type thing, and just a different mindset. So I think that and I could be wrong, but the people that have been brought up in the Western traditions of religious traditions, Islam, uh, Christianity, Judaism, I think they have a more difficult time with the idea of an unconditional law, a God of unconditional love, than maybe the Eastern or Taoist, Hindu, Buddhist. The Buddhists a little different in regard to God, but that they're the idea of seeing God as unconditional love or not a judgmental God is a much easier leap to me, uh, being aware of, I'm going to say, those six great religions. Although whenever you get to the mystical traditions of them all, they all say the same thing, that God is unconditional love. And they, all unify at that point. So thank you again.
Yeah, that's amazing. I found this about like, it's just that I was searching something in the book, in Occult Miracles, the blue book. And this is part of chapter 22, Salvation and the Holy Relationship. A holy relationship starts from a different premise. Each one has looked within and seen no lack. Accepting his completion, he will extend it by joining with another, whole as himself. He sees no difference between these selves, for differences are only of the body. Therefore, he looks on nothing he will take. He denies not his own reality because it is the truth. Just under heaven does he stand, but close enough not to return to earth, for this relationship has heaven's holiness. How far from home can a relationship so like to heaven be? This is like part of the reflection that we are making, that separation is not real. So whatever you want to see it outside is just because we are still in the learning process of being at one. And the entire mankind is doing it as well. I mean, all the content that we see now, it's really trying to level up the difference between us races and genders and way of loving and freedom for everybody, or economics as well. I mean, everything is moving forward to the same direction. So we just need to do our part within ourselves instead of trying to see it outside. We just need to embrace it within ourselves constantly. every time we see a conflict in front of us. So I wanted to add that because I found it like beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. So there's some other people here on the stage I'd love to hear from. Trisha, Louisa, Caro, Tamara. Hey, Dr. George, this is the first time I've seen you. I'd love to hear from you too. If you guys have any thoughts, that would be great. And there's no pressure either. We're here every morning. Just want to give everybody a chance to say what's going through their head, because everything we hear has some great way to reflect back and help us. So I'm grateful you all are here. We'll be here tomorrow morning too. And I appreciate it. Go ahead,
I
Karen.
had a question, Lee.
Sure.
What is this business about a purple book? I don't know anything about a
Yeah.
purple book.
It's a confusing thing. Sorry about that. We refer to a book that's published by a group called Circle of Atonement. And what they did is they went back to the original source material and they recovered a whole bunch of information that was written, but then edited out. And they are of the opinion that anything that Jesus wrote is probably worth hearing. And so from their perspective, they feel like they put out a new edition of this book. We had some crazy copyright issues early on with this book. And those copyright issues kind of broke the copyright on the original book, and it meant that Tom could make his own version of the book. This Course in Miracles for Dummies that I read from is almost identical to the Blue Book, but it's got a whole bunch of extra notes. And while Tom was working on that, the Circle of Atonement group was going back into source material, and they republished the book in a whole new way. And the first 10, 15 chapters of the text are pretty different, really different, actually. So we started reading from this purple book because not only do they have the source material returned, they've got footnotes and a whole bunch of other stuff. Dad and I have been reading this. We started reading every morning in 2016. And so over the years, we read through the Blue Book. I couldn't get it to make sense to me. And then I went and I did the lessons, and then the Blue Book made sense to me. And then I found the For Dummies book, and the Blue Book made more sense to me. And then we found the Purple Book, and then the Blue Book and the underlying message made enough sense to me that I could adopt it as a way of looking at the world. And that was the change that the Course in Miracles all of a sudden opened up my brain to seeing the miracles that are all around me. So, sorry for the confusion, but the Purple Book is Circle of Atonement edition. And right now on my screen, I'm showing my Kindle version of that. And some days I read from that. Most of the days I pull our meditations from this Purple Book. And this part of that Purple Book, exactly the same as the blue one. The lessons are almost identical. There was just a whole bunch of source material early on in the text that came back. There is one additional thing the Purple Book has. It's got these things at the back, essays, and these 30-odd essays have been really helpful in helping us understand what the authors were going through when they were just starting to get some of this information streamed to them from Jesus. And so that helped give some context to the fallibility of the scribes and where their own personality and personal stuff might get in the way, and might have gotten in the way during the editing process, because what we found is that Helen had a tremendous amount of society repressed feelings, thoughts about all kinds of stuff that we find out as we read what she was going through as she was trying to receive this message. So sorry for my lack of definition. In the first couple of months that we were here, I probably repeated that so many times that I've gotten to the point where I hardly ever say it again. But we read from 3 books. There's the Blue Book that we all kind of know and started with. There's a Purple Circle of Atonement, a Course in Miracles book that's almost identical for the rest of the book other than the first beginning. And finally, there's Tom's book, which to me, the For Dummies book, gives me a whole level of depth and clarity when I read it. It's the first thing I read. And if you see it on my screen, you'll see there's a lot of bold sections to it. And the bold is the part that Tom added that I think really helps with clarity a lot. So that's the story behind the books.
Everybody
Thanks.
has. I'm sorry. Somebody started to talk. Okay. George, Dr. Yang, I would love to hear from you. I'm going to just tickle you a little bit, please, because I just read your bio as Lee had done, and it looks like your bio reads like all of the things we've been talking about this morning, because you have so many different parts of you that seem to your name itself. I assume is Oriental, whereas you are a rabbi, and in terms of a general understanding of things, I would love you to just reflect upon how do you pull all of your pieces together in order to have peace. It's and if I understood what I read, you're also a teacher at Harvard, so um, it I would love to hear from you and your experience. I'll ask the question that Lee likes to ask. Um, how did Course in Miracles find you, or did you find the Course in Miracles? If you're able to speak at this time.
And if you're not, there's another doctor down in the audience. Just
I
the
was I
doctor,
was about
doctor.
to say that because
He's
that
an insomnia expert, and I want to know about that.
yeah, I was about to bring him up because of that. I did share the invite to speak link, but he hasn't replied that yet.
All right, you're all welcome to speak. I know as I get busy in my day, sometimes you just can't come off mic, and that's totally fine.
I just want to say thank you to all of you, and just sending you love, and have a happy Sunday. Sounds like we already are. And I will see you tomorrow. I need to head out.
Well, just so
Thank
you
you,
know,
No.
Jenny.
before you leave, she's not here right now, but Linda, my daughter,
Yes.
is visiting us this weekend. She flew in last night on her wings, the airplane, and we went out to dinner. And she is making up something called pho. That's the way you have to pronounce it in Vietnamese, and it's a dish you probably have seen. PHO. That's the way it's spelled. But we had to go out and buy an 24-gallon tank. It was the
24
biggest thing I ever
gallons.
saw. It takes up half the stove. And we went and got with her. She told me we're going to get this and that. And there are so many things that go into this one soup, that kind of a soupy thing that you can eat morning, afternoon, and evening, and it's healthy, and it's got a million different things in it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch how it all comes together today. So I'm looking forward to that. And she's going to be with us for a couple of 3 days, and I'm excited about that. And my wife just told me that she's walking around, so she's up. But we're going to
You
finish
should
up here.
probably, yeah, you should
Maybe.
probably go with it.
Well, she got up very early yesterday to
Ah,
make the
okay.
flight, so maybe tomorrow she will come in and share a little bit about what she thinks about miracles, because she's the biggest miracle in my life. So that's I'll finish up with that. But to say, anybody else who wants to share, please come up to the
Thank you,
grab your mic and
Jenny.
talk to
Thank you
us.
for everything.
Enjoy
How,
your daughter.
hey
That's
Lee,
cool.
hey Adriana, how you doing?
Doing
Hi,
great, Stanley.
Stanley.
Hi, great to see you guys. Um, always lovely to be involved in a group of people. I remember being involved with a group of mainly women, actually. It's in South Africa, it seems that women were more involved in the Course of Miracles groups. And I promised myself when I did Course in Miracles that I would never ever forget the beginning, because it took me the better part of 4 years, because I've got an analytical mind, and my analytical mind wanted to understand this book, until I realized a woman spoke one day and she said she'd been part of the Course in Miracles group for 30 years. and that she got nothing out of it. And
Oh my God.
I looked at her with absolute disbelief. I was about 3 years into it. And in the moment that she said that, I realized that Course in Miracles, the book, is a koan. It's a koan very similar to the monks that are given a koan of what is the sound of one hand clapping. Because ultimately, when you realize that God exists in everything, in yourself, in others, in everything, and that it's not separate, the natural question arises, well, who created God? And at that point, I had a breakdown. I realized I will never, ever work this out. And that forced me into surrender. And in that moment of surrender, suddenly a realization and a feeling came over me that from a mind perspective, from an analytical mind perspective, I will never, ever grasp the concept of God. At best, I feel I am. It is what it is, and I'm part of it. And that's when I surrendered. And the miracles or the synchronicities that we talk about in that surrender. And I've noticed often in business or in relationship now, when I surrender in the relationship, not to the relationship, but surrender to the higher values that I now understand through my own surrender to God, me, myself, everything. In that moment of surrender, when you surrender in relationship to the higher virtues, the higher values of the universe, the way the universe speaks to us through vibration, that's when the miracles happen, because something else opens up beyond the five senses. And we see, as Carlos Castaneda says, that cubic centimeter of opportunity that passes by us all the time, and we're able to reach out metaphorically and grab it. But when we try and construct this stuff from the mind and analyze it and try and understand that which created us, it's futile, because we are this very same thing that created us. So why don't we just understand ourselves? Because that is the path to it, and in understanding self, so we begin to understand others and the beauty and the expression of creativity, of creation itself within ourselves and everybody else. Thank you.
Oh, Stanley, how you put things so beautifully. I have to tell you something. I'm going to tell it on Janine, who is still here. Janine said that she looked on your bio and she said, "Hey, Bob, you really ought to talk to Stanley because he might be interested in working with you on Liberia." And I
Boy,
said, "Well,
is he.
as a matter of fact, we have been talking together ever
And,
since you came here. What, about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? And yes, we have been
and
talking."
Janine, this makes it absolutely believable to me. With Stanley involved, I got all the faith in the world.
Well,
Janine
Stan,
made a
No
miracle.
offense, Dad. No offense,
No,
but I
and in
mean,
fact, the day that Stanley came into a room that Bob was really having this conversation about, it was miraculous because Stanley came in like out of the nowhere, and then it was like chain reaction from that moment. Janine told that to Bob up
yeah,
to what you
and
are now, right?
yes, and Stanley even just now mentioned about being involved with women, and I met Stanley in the Rich Women's Group, and frankly, the women there they're pretty terrific. They
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 have a
are
lot of male features, though, it feels like.
well, maybe, but by the same token, the leader really helps you over any fear you have of saying exactly what's on your mind, especially if it's nice, and for
Very
the
good
most
point.
part, it is.
Yeah.
And she encourages everybody to speak their truth and to tell their story, and that is a very nourishing thing that we generally attribute to women. So the nourishing part of the spirit is in many ways that as far as I'm personally concerned, I can tell you that my mother, my father was in the hotel business, but my mother used to do these little things. I don't know if anybody here knows what a stencil is. It was the precursor to printing things. And she used to draw little cartoons and things on the announcements for the hotel. We're going to do this. We're having Jerry Lewis here or whatever. And I got supposedly my artistic side of me developed because of my mom. But I can see how strong that is. On the one hand, as an architect, I have to have equal I have to be able to think and create equally with pictures and paintings and artistic creativity. But also there's legal stuff and plumbing and mechanical, and you got to make darn sure that that toilet will flush when it's supposed to flush, or else we're going to need a plunger, as Lee brought up yesterday. But all of those things do come together, and Stanley and I are very good friends. We may or may not be actually doing business. We're actually negotiating as we speak. And so, Janine, you really hit the nail on the head with that. It was interesting that you asked me that question this morning. And that's just another one of those miracles. And I can't say a little miracle because there is no differentiation in size of miracles. All things happen together. So
Yeah, that's
this
so
has
funny
been very
and
exciting.
interesting how I just decided to click on his little picture and read about him. It was, I guess, like you said, yeah, a little miracle. I was just drawn to him for some reason. Reading, I'm like, oh, Bob, you got to talk to this guy. So funny.
That's
That's
how
exactly right.
miracles are.
That's exactly right. So, Lee, I think it's time for you to bring us back to the actual lesson. I love the way you summarize at the end. It's sometimes the most meaningful part for me. And
Yes.
I'd like to ask you to return to that at this time.
Can do. No problem. We're here every morning, starting about 2 hours before this very minute. We started about 6:37 on the East Coast. You're welcome to join us. We're on lesson 58 today. We'll be going through all 365 this year. And all of them have been sent out to our Facebook group and the one that we have linked at the top, A Course in Miracles.live. And we're doing our best to make it easy for you to stay in touch with these concepts throughout the day, mostly because I need it for myself. So I might as well do it for everybody if I can. So our lessons for today are: my holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a child of God. Each of these concepts, as we carry them through today, help bring us back to the concept of us and the holy part of us, the part that really helps us get connected to our source which guides us through life. So, coming back to God today, I love you all. I hope you have a fantastic day. Can't wait to see you tomorrow and hear how it was. I don't have to close down the room, but you're all welcome to stay and talk if you wish.
Thank you.
I know today can be a fantastic day. So I have one new resource for you. I'm joining a Discord server, and I'm going to put it in the link above. But it's an easier way to chat throughout the day if you feel like getting in touch with us. Just another opportunity. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Lee, hi. Are you still there?
I sure am. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. Two of me here.
Hi.
Yeah. Can you send me the Discord link in the? I don't seem to have the group chat. for some reason.
Oh, sure. So up at the top of the room we're in, you'll see a
Mm-hmm.
purple Course in Miracles thing. And if you click on that, that'll open up a new window. That window has the video of the day, and that's where the Discord server
Oh,
link
okay,
is
cool.
in. But if you're in Discord and you search for ACIM, there's only 2 groups. I started a second one, and I'm getting rid of the second one so that we can be a single group where we've got all kinds of resources for ACIM. It's
Cool,
a
thanks.
good library type facility, so I could put copies of the books. There are tons of copies of the books there already and stuff.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. If you have any problems, just let me know. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help. No problem.
Thanks.
Thomas, I see you just joined us. Good morning. I'm glad you're here. We're starting every morning with our lessons. So if you're not here to sell Bitcoin, you're welcome. Hope you're having a good day.
Okay, everybody, I just want to say something. Even though the meeting has ended, I'm going to now introduce you to my daughter,
Yay!
Linda. Linda is here right
Yes,
now,
meet Linda.
and they can hear you. That's Louisa, and these are other
No,
people
but
in the room. There's
okay.
Sean. So just say hello a little bit.
Do they see me?
I introduced. Yes, they can hear you now.
They can hear me and not see me.
That's right. They cannot see you. It's too
Good
early.
morning. I'm
Good
in the kitchen, so I
morning.
want to make sure that you're not seeing me. I was cooking some pho in the kitchen right now, trying to get ready for lunch.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh, I
how's
bet that's going to be
everybody?
so
Hi,
good.
Linda. It's so good to hear you.
Yes,
And I would love to taste that pot that you're making.
Pho.
yeah, I make pho. Yes, this big pot is ready. Ready for lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Linda,
I
Dad
introduced you
said that was a
today to my biggest
25-gallon pot.
miracle.
Did you get a 25-gallon pot?
Is it? I think it's
No.
more. Not
No.
get. Did I say gallon? I'm so
You
sorry.
said 25
Yeah,
gallons.
Quart.
you said
Yeah.
that.
Tw-
Yes. And it's
Quart.
on record.
Well, we have. If you could see this kitchen, we have this thing that's about 1.5 feet high, and then we have another pot that we have been using. There's about 3 or
25
4 pots out here.
No.
25 quarts
Well,
is
it's
4
enough for
gallons.
about 20. It's enough about for 20 people.
It's 4 gallons. It's a big pot. That's a
Yeah.
big pot.
It
Yeah, it's
is.
enough for for about 20 people eat.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't help but notice
Yeah,
you
we
said about 20 people. This is Sean. Can I come over for lunch?
Yeah.
yeah,
Sean,
can
Come
I
on
come over
over.
as well? Can I
Yeah,
come
Sean,
over as well?
everybody. Let's
Sean,
go.
you have to come today, okay? You have to try my pho. I mean, it's the best pho in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Sean,
a tall
if you
order.
don't
I'm
go
over.
there,
Yeah.
yeah,
A
tall
tall
order.
water.
Let's go, man.
Yeah. Well, look,
Get in that mini. Come
I
on
just have,
over.
I have
Let
noted,
Charlotte,
okay,
you're
we
welcome.
don't have a big bowl in this house. It's all small bowl. So you
Mm-hmm.
want whatever bowl you want, you can bring your
Sean,
bowl.
bring a big soup bowl, man.
That's
Yeah.
right. Oh,
Yeah, I got
we're
some
gonna
big bowls.
we're gonna have pho for. I have to keep practicing that to pronounce it right.
I
Pho,
think you
There it
maybe
is.
don't put so much
Pho.
emphasis on
pho,
your pho.
yes,
No,
pho.
but we have to learn. We have to learn.
Let
Pa, we have to learn how to say it.
explain how the music is part of the
Pho,
words. Yeah. When
Pa,
Linda
yeah.
talks in Vietnamese, a large part of the language, words carry meaning depending upon how you say it. And you could probably tell me 2 or 3 words that if you say
yeah,
it one way,
yeah,
tell them a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
about it.
Like pho is spelled PHO, but on the top of the O on the right side have like a question mark over on top of it. It says make it pho, pho. Like you can say like pho, and then you have the question mark on it. It's called pho. It's all of different. If you put, we have 5 different periods thing to make the words change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Melody.
melody,
So,
right? So one is like a dash going to the 45 angle to the left. Another one, so it's a 45 angle to the left. We say like a pho, and it's to the right. We say pho. See that
And I
45 angle
thought,
dash?
oh
Yeah.
my God.
And then
I thought German was difficult with the
German was
umlaut.
difficult.
Umlaut.
yeah,
Umlaut.
yeah. Yeah, just that 5 different. So and then there's another purist right under. So we call fa. So fa, 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 fa. You know, it's all like it was
Yeah,
all
you
Oh
have to
my
be a
God,
singer.
yeah, that was about to say, I was about to say that
And
you have
now
to
we
be a
know why
singer
Dad pronounces
to
it
speak
that way.
Vietnamese.
Totally makes sense now. Yep.
yeah. It's pretty different. Even like north, south, east, west, they call moms different too. Like
You mean like North Vietnam?
yeah,
They say.
north, south is all
Mhm.
different. Like from South Vietnam, like I call mother, I call mẹ, like me, and appearance at the bottom is called mẹ. South Vietnam, but it's not in Saigon, but you know further back in the country a little bit, they call ma is ma, and then the dash go to the left, and then Central Vietnam they call ma is ma, and then the appearance at the bottom. So I mean, everybody call mothers are different.
Yeah.
Like well, you know, here we call mom,
Wow.
mommy,
And
or
I thought
mommy.
German was difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, German. The problem with German is the words are so long that by the time I get to the other end, I'm asleep already. The
No, but
words are
they do
beautiful.
have the umlaut that makes you change the
Yes,
vocalization of the A's and O's and E's. So
exactly. Yeah,
it changes. So it for me it's always like something hard to really do.
yeah,
And
and
now Vietnamese is another new level because it has like 3 different ways to pronounce one single sound. So it's pretty amazing to know that.
yeah, it's in Hebrew also. Like just to take the word
Ah,
"be" for example, there are no vowels. All of the vowels are handled by the little mark. So "b," if there's a dot on the bottom, you pronounce it "b." If it's like a little T, it would be well. There's no, yeah, "ba."
no wonder why God didn't make this world.
There you
God is
go.
not that complicated.
I know
You know,
it's a lot
we
simpler.
complicate things.
Okay, there's one. It's very easy example right here. Like bo. Okay, just the bo, like ball. Okay, we call ball. So if you put bo and there's a question mark on top, it's called ball. It's meant throw it away. Okay, ball, throw it away. And then it's a dash to go to the left on top of the bo is called ball. Ball is mean tied up. See, it's different
Tie it
already.
up.
Yeah, it's
Opposite.
like tied it up. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
like you know, tight.
Mm.
And then bo, and then the pierce at the bottom is called ball. It's mean like the you know the like ants and you know like all the
Insects.
yes.
Mhm,
So it's already different.
Wow.
Just bo, and then whatever the pierce is different, it's already made completely different.
So you have to have a musical ear to be able to speak, to understand Vietnamese, and
Yeah.
a lot of languages are simply like that. And it's just interesting. It's one of the things that separates us, and it's one of the things that unites us because we're all trying to communicate so we can come together. So anyway, I just thought you'd like to meet her
Well, it's
tomorrow.
nice talking to everybody. I was hope that I can make some time to get in the room one day because you know where I live is a 1 hour difference, so it's really hard for get up like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry.
You're always welcome.
Thank you,
Always
Adriana.
welcome.
Well,
No,
maybe
that's
tomorrow.
Luisa.
Luisa.
That was Luisa.
Luisa.
We are like
Our
sisters,
mirrors.
but yeah, that was
We are
Luisa.
mirrors. I have a
Yeah, we are
question,
mirrors.
Lee. I have a
Sure.
question regarding your chat tool there. How is it called again?
Would I manage all this other stuff?
No, because I wanted to chat and I had to download a new app. So I was wondering, what's the
Discord.
difference? Discord, what is that for? Like, what's the difference of having that? Is it not easier like a WhatsApp group in case we want to chat with each other? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
So I'm glad you asked. It's definitely, I know I bring a lot of technology here. Part of what I do for a living. Here's the benefit I found. The source material that helps me, excuse me, that's not what I meant to say. The software that helps me stream this back out to record it and save it to the Facebook group, I started out using one type of software, and I found another one that is more helpful for me to be able to stream to multiple sources. And the centralized kind of societal chat that's available open and outside in Discord seems to have a lot less stigma than using any of the other chat tools. And it seems that on an ongoing basis, this thing has the features that not only make it good for chat, but the way that this guy Jesse set up this specific server, it's also got a whole library of not only all of the Course in Miracles books, but everything by John Mundy, by Ken Wapnick, by Marianne Williamson, and it's got a huge library. And it can be not only a text chat, but it can be an audio chat. There are hangout rooms, so it kind of gives all the features that I've been looking for everywhere else, and then ties that into Twitch, which is the main publishing platform, and that allows us a whole bunch of other freedoms. And so I'm trying to make sure that as many people can get our message and are invited to come participate if they want. It's kind of the opposite of what the other Clubhouse groups are doing, because it seemed like if they're going to make a private, safe place, we should have one place that's wide open to let the world come and at least start to get some of these messages. So I'm recording this. It's going out to Twitch. It's going out to Facebook. It's going out to YouTube. And it's saved out there so that if somebody wants to come back later in the day, they can listen to it. And so, again, why did I come back to Discord? Because it's more of a universal place that all day long, it's easy for me to hang out on. Whereas in here, I'm only available and I only open Clubhouse once in a while. And the Facebook group, some people don't like Facebook and don't want to be a part of it. And so I'm just trying to give lots of options.
I'm sorry,
You're doing it
Lee.
great.
Lee,
Hi,
where is
Charlotte.
the link? The link to
Hi,
Discord?
Yeah, it's right up at the top. So there's a big thing up at the top of this room says A Course in Miracles, Daily Readings and Lessons. If you tap on that, it'll open A Course in Miracles.live. And the software that I use makes this page and gave me this URL. And so I just figured it sounds like a pretty easy place to put it all together. So I have the daily video there. The Discord chat is right there. There's another chat that's there too, but it's all kind of in that one spot.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. I just want everybody to get as much out of this as they can. And we're running 2.5 hours, but it's a Sunday, so definitely willing to let it go. Yeah. The longer we go, the more chance we have for the West Coast people to be able to participate. And so,
but this is getting like a little bit like hard for me, because now in the chat within the room, everybody's talking about breakfast. And in fact, there are a lot of Colombians right now, or people that have contact with Colombian food, and they are all bragging about their meals, their breakfast, and I'm getting hungry.
Boy. And you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. Charlotte said the same thing. And Charlotte, I'm so glad you came up to talk. Thank you so much for coming up and asking that question. I appreciate it. And I do have digital copies of the Purple Book that I have no problem sending to anybody who wants it. Tom's book, A Course in Miracles for Dummies, Tom has, he's got the ability to share that book with you. So reach out to him if you're interested in that piece. But I just want you guys to get as much out of this as you can. This year, that's my plan, is to get as much out of this course as I can. And just to let you know, Dr. Charles Friedman from down below, thank you so much for reaching out. Thanks for chatting. He's in San Diego, and it's tough when it's, oh my God, what is it? It's 5:54 in the morning for you. So I totally get it. Hopefully your household will start to wake up soon. But Adriana gets up an hour before me. I feel guilty sometimes that she comes in to be the moderator, but I so appreciate her. And I really appreciate you guys coming and being here. You're all welcome.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. We are having this like a beautiful adventure and a beautiful relationship among everyone that comes into this session. So for me, it's really not big deal, because it made my days really wholly instant all day long. Wholly instant all day long. So this is the best way for me
to start my days. And I'm really glad to have everybody here. And Dr. Charles, I'm sending you the invitation for you to speak because you're saying such a words in the chat. So I hope you. Oh well, now you're saying that you're gonna have to go to sleep. So I don't know where are you in the world right now. But as you're saying that you're gonna back to sleep, so have a sweet dreams, and we'll see you
Nice.
tomorrow, I guess. Well, I don't know if you could join us, but I hope you share with us some more information because I was really thrilled to see your profile. So
Lee, sorry, Adriana.
No, it's okay.
Lee, just to let you know that I was downloading this app thing, and at the
Mm,
moment it got open, it kicked me out of Clubhouse. I don't know if they both go together or what.
okay. I've had this happen
Yeah.
before too. It has the same profile as another telephone application, and so I had definitely have seen how it takes over the audio in the same way that sometimes when you're in Clubhouse and you leave Clubhouse, you're still connected to Clubhouse. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm hopefully since you found
No,
your way
you don't
back
have
in,
to
it's
be
not too
sorry.
big of a deal, but
You are not the app developer, so don't worry. I'm just mentioning that
it's good to know.
if you download it, don't do it while you are in the room because it will kick you off. That's all.
Yes.
I'm going to leave because I have to write my newsletter for next week. Um, yeah, I have to work now. See you all. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
I love you, my
And
friend. Thank you very
I
much for your
love you.
time
And
yesterday. I was
I was going to
so
say
thrilled.
that, yeah, I enjoyed really to spend that the previous hour with you because I think I was more not worried, but more I don't know. I really wanted for you to have a relaxed time before that
Well,
appointment. So
you
I
made
really
it, my
enjoy
friend.
it.
You made the entire difference.